I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Tate Kirchenschlager, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Appreciate you having me.
Tate, you've had a great season already this year just in the rope horse futurities. Last week, I went to Fort Worth, and you won first and third in the 4 and under, and first and second in the 6 and under. Like, these are the top guys in the world, the top trainers in the world. And every time I go, like, you're right there, just, what is it? I think you've won the AQHA World Final, the World twice. Like, for one, how do you keep getting the good horses? And for another, like, you've done such a great job at showing these horses. What's some of your techniques?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, as far as getting the good horses, I mean, I think that's just, honestly, that's just kind of luck. I mean, you hope the good ones show up at your house, or you hope the next person that calls has one that's talented enough to do it. So, I mean, as far as the horses go, I mean, one of the horses that I won Fort Worth on, me and my wife owned. But same thing. I mean, we bought it when it was young and just lucky enough that
The one that you won in Fort Worth, you own?
The first year.
In
2021.
2021.
Yeah, but I mean, same thing. I mean, it's just, we bought it as a 3-year-old, not just like everybody. You just hope it's going to be good enough, and it did. And then, like the gray horse that won Fort Worth, just same thing. Guy came up to me, wanted me to ride him, and just thankfully was good enough. So, as far as the good horses, if you don't have the money to go buy them, you're just hoping they show up. I mean, that's just kind of a luck deal, really.
Because I keep thinking luck, because there's only so much luck you can have, but when you keep winning, there's something to it, you know. And that's where I've noticed, like, how good you're riding all these horses, especially the 4-year-olds. Like, watching how confident they are at such a young age. Like, you're doing such a great job of training them.
Yeah, I do think the more you can win, the better chance you have of good horses showing up at your house, of course.
That makes sense.
You know, I mean, I don't send any horses to anybody, but if I look at it as the more I can win and the more people can see me winning, the more if they want to get in the business, they'll think, hey, maybe I want to send my horse to that guy, you know? So yeah, I think the winning has something to do with it, but at the same time, it takes a good horse to be able to win. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
What all futurities have you gone to this year, and what all have you won outside of just the American Rope Horse Futurity?
Oh, I mean, I guess we started at Scottsdale first week of March. That gray horse, he won Scottsdale.
Now, what's the gray horse's name?
We call him Smoke.
Smoke.
Yeah, they call him a Painted Sunshine, his registered name. But
now, what's he bred like?
He's a grandson of PYC out of Freckles Playboy mare.
Mm.
So, yeah. But he did good out there.
And how old's he? Is he in the 6? He's in the 6-year-old, right?
He's 6 this year. Yeah, he did good in the 5 and 6. And then I guess Houston was the second place we went. And
those are both American Rope Horse Futurity.
Both
futurities, correct?
Rope Horse Futurities, yeah. And then I got a 5-year-old Betty's a Cat. He won second at Houston. And I'm trying to think where we went after that. We went to another American Rope Horse Futurity in Ardmore.
That's the one I seen you at, and I think you won the 4-year-old there, correct?
Second.
Second.
I had a yellow horse win second in the 4-year-old, and then I think I won third and fourth in the 5 and 6-year-old. I think I've got a yellow horse by Metallic Echo that's 5 years old. He won third, and then that Betty's a Cat won fourth, and then Driggers' deal was 2 weeks later in Ardmore. I think in the 5 and 6-year-old deal, the gray one the yellow one first. The 5-year-old Metallic Echo won that. The gray one second. And then I went to the Royal Crown in Guthrie, and I've got a 4-year-old Hashtags. He won the 4-year-old class up there. And then we went to the American Rope Horse Charity in Oklahoma City. I didn't win anything in the 5 and 6-year-old class. And then I had a yellow horse win second in the 4-year-old class. And then we went to Fort Worth.
So it's not like one horse that you have has just been killing them. It sounds like all of them have been doing pretty dang good.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough. I got a couple, 2 or 3 4-year-olds that I think are pretty good. And then I've got 3 or 4, 5 and 6-year-olds that I think are pretty good. So on any given day, if we do our job, they should win something.
So when you made the NFR in 2019, you've been known for your horses. You had the head horse of the year that year. What was that horse's name?
I actually called him Smoke, same as Gray. Yeah, it's
one thing about it. If you get a good name,
yeah.
just keep naming the same thing.
Yeah, the Gray horse came with the name Smoke.
Got it.
But yeah, the sorrel horse I rode then, his name was Smoke too.
He was cool.
Yeah, he was a pretty good horse.
Now, what was he bred like?
I couldn't even really tell you. It was just a bunch of old foundation stuff. He was raised out by Abilene, but it was nothing, no name brand stuff.
So how much do you think you've won this year, Futurian? You got it written down?
No, I don't. I honestly,
guesstimation?
Oh, I don't know. No. I honestly, I probably should keep track of it better, but it's not a goal of mine to see how much money I have won at the end of the year. So it's not something I keep track of.
What is your goal?
I've got a bunch of different goals, I guess you would say. I wouldn't say I have one set. The main thing is I want, when the year's over, or every year, I want people to think, when we talk about head horses at rope horse charities, who are we going to talk about? And my name don't have to be at the top, but I want it to be in the top 2 or 3. And then I don't want to be known as a guy that had one good horse here and won something here and just on that good horse. Another goal is I want to see how many horses I can take and not just win once on them, but when they age out, people say, dang, that horse had, for 3 years, that horse won. So I want to see how many horses I can take and, see, I guess you would say, like, how many horses can have a good career in 3 years? Not just a one horse here type deal.
That makes sense. Because what I was wondering, kind of what your difference was when you made the NFR in 19, and then when did you decide to start slowing down rodeoing or quit rodeoing and start Futurian?
Yeah, so I made it in 19, and then I tried again in 20, didn't get it done. Tried again in 21, didn't get it done. Then it was kind of at a point where, I felt like I roped good enough to compete at that level, but I didn't feel like I roped good enough to make a living at that level or make the NFR consistently. Is kind of one of those deals. I felt like I was at a time in my life where to get over the hump and be one of those guys to make the NFR every year and make a living at it, I was going to have to make a lot of sacrifices to get good enough to do that. And my whole goal growing up was to make the NFR, and I felt like I did that. And I didn't feel like I was talented enough to be one of those guys. So I just accepted that. I was just a realist about it and accepted that. In my mind, I didn't think I was talented enough as fast as it was getting. I've never been able to throw very fast, so I didn't think that was the route for me. And then this deal just started to come along, and I've always rode horses on the side to pay for rodeoing, so I just started getting into this.
Just kind of worked out.
Yeah, the timing of it worked out.
Timing of it was good, huh?
Yeah. I got home from rodeoing in 21.
Because I don't think Jay got the American Rope Horse Fraternity started till maybe 17.
Yeah.
And it kind of took him almost to right about with the point you're talking to where it started. Guys could start maybe making a living doing it.
Yeah. When I got home from rodeoing in 2021, I missed the finals that year. I got home. We were building our place. My wife was pregnant. And then in October, we win the big rope horse charity on our horse. And then that was when I was kind of like, well, I felt like I had the opportunity to start doing this. So then I rodeoed the winter of 22 because I was in everything. And then about come spring, I was done.
Because you and your wife, you share special interest, in the fact of both of you ride horses really well. And so when did you guys meet? How did you meet?
So it'd have been in 2000 and the American Rope Horse Futurity in Fort Worth in 2017 in October. I met her there at the Rope Horse Futurity. She was helping Brad Lund at the Futurity, and then I just went up there to help. Dakota was showing some horses. I went up there to help him, and that's where I met her. Yep.
Because she's pretty good over there on that side, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people don't realize too, is like, even though you guys are a Futurity and you don't see a lot of the horse show stuff, and, you know, every once in a while, but for a lot of times they're kind of standalone events.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, so she come from riding cow horses and AQHA showing and stuff like that. That's her background. So that's kind of how I met her. And
so she used to ride a lot of horses then as well.
Yeah, so her family grew up raising horses. For 2 or 3 summers, she went to Brad Lund's house and worked for him in the summer. She showed cow horses when she
Where
was
does Brad live?
Lacine, Kansas.
Kansas.
Like south of Kansas City,
Okay.
Missouri, yeah.
So where was she from?
It's Osceola, Nebraska, so it's going to be eastern Nebraska.
So up there in that area.
Yeah, so, but she showed cow horses through high school and college and stuff, and then she had a good horse, and then it passed away, and then she went rodeoing with me, and then now that our kid's older, we got a horse, I guess, a year ago, and she's showing again now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because y'all had a little girl, Remy.
Yes, sir.
How old
Yeah.
she?
2.5. Yeah.
So she's able to kind of start being able to do that a little bit now.
Yeah, I guess it'd have been back in August or September. It'd have been August. The kid that works for me, Garrett, Todd Crawford sent him a horse to rope on and then eventually sell. And then Tara was talking about wanting to get it back into the cow horse. Long story short, Garrett pretty much found the horse for us, tried it. It was a good fit. We wanted something that she could show on the cow horse and that I could head on to. So it was a good fit.
So what horse is that?
He's called Night Watch. That's his registered name. He's 5.
And you've been running on him, the head and the futurities, and she's been doing the cow horse on him.
I haven't won anything on him yet, but I took him to Scottsdale and I was high call on him at Scottsdale and missed.
That don't happen much.
More than it should. I was high call in the 4-year-old class and missed 2 out there. Yeah, so
it was a rough start to the year.
It was a rough day. Let's put it that way. And then when I got back from there, she started showing him, and shoot, she won like 9 or 10,000 in Vegas on him. And then she took him to Scottsdale, and she won everything there. She won like 16 or 20,000 at Scottsdale on him. And then I showed him in Fort Worth. I didn't win anything in Fort Worth, but I'll start showing him the rest of this year and then all next year. And then she'll probably make him a bridle horse when he's 7.
What do you think the maintenance is between how she's running him in the cow horse and how you're working him in the team roping?
Oh, it's horses like that are, that horse is real talented, real broke. Honestly, it's pretty good to not rope on him and let her ride him. I mean, she goes and rides with Aaron Tremino, and that horse is over there for 3 or 4 months, and he come back, feels better now to rope on than he did before he went over there.
So soft, huh?
Yeah. So it's a good balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always heard that the cow work is real good on the head side, just because the rate, they know how to use their body, and they're getting broke as they're doing it.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it's a good mix. Yeah.
So you talked about some of the futurities that you've gone to, the American Rope Horse Futurity, Driggers with the gold buckle, and Zancanella's is the Roll Crown.
Yes, sir.
Is there a certain futurity that you go to that fits your deal better? Is there some that have a better fit? Because I've heard some say that, like, the trainers and the owners, the American Rope Horse Futurity is pretty good. I've heard that for some of the breeders, some of the other ones are good. Which strengths do you feel like each futurity kind of have? Because there's going to be so many of them. A lot of people are like, well, I wonder what the difference is between this futurity to that futurity.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, all 3 of them are good. I don't have any complaints about either one of them, but there are some strengths and weaknesses. The American Rope Horse Futurity, it's a really good event far as, it takes pride in the horse probably the most, far as when I say the horse, like the horse looking good, the eye appeal, the horse being presented well. It's a lot about the horse, and that's good. And not that the other ones aren't, but it's a lot about how the horse looks and works and does. does his job. Caleb Driggers' deal, I think's really good for the incentives, which it's good about what the horse looks like too. It is, but man, Driggers' deal, they got the stud incentive, the breeder incentive, and then what you can win in the average. Like, I had a horse go up there, he didn't even place in the average. He placed in both incentives and won 6,500.
Wow.
And honestly, I didn't think we won anything because we were like 4 out of placing in the average. So I think Driggers' deal, like bang for your buck with all those incentives, you got so many more options of winning everywhere. I think it's going to be a good deal. I really do like the American Rope Horse Futurities for the simple fact, when you put the extra in to make your horse look good, just condition wise and stuff, they respect that, and they give you, they give you credit for that, and that's good to know. And then I do like the Royal Crowns because they're not as picky on how your horse appearance wise, which is fine because not every horse shows up to my house pretty, and I can't get it pretty. Where sometimes they'll overlook if your horse ain't the prettiest. If you can make a good run on it, perfect. Then we're going to let you win something. So I like the Royal Crown for that aspect of, if I only kept horses at my house that were pretty enough to win at the American Rope Horse Futurities, I wouldn't have very many horses at my house. So it's nice to have that on the other side of it, to where, hey, we're not going to knock you a bunch of points if your horse isn't the prettiest. If it'll score, run, let you be 6, 7 seconds, we're going to give you something, So it's a good avenue to have that as well. I think a person just needs to have an open mind going into all of them and what they're going to be like.
I never actually thought about that. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, like when I go to the Royal Crowns, I've got an idea what they're going to expect.
Mm-hmm.
I take the horses that I think will do good there. And I don't necessarily get mad at them for not appreciating the prettier horse. Like that's okay, but at the same time, when I go to the American Rope Horse Futurities, I know what horses to take over there that they're going to like.
You know what they're after.
Yeah. I'm not going to take something over there that don't have a tail very good and rubbed out,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to talk bad about those horses or nothing like that, but it just, if a person pays attention, you'll see what's winning, see how the horses look, then you got an idea.
I know that anything Driggers does, I'm always going to be behind it, and I feel bad that I haven't gotten to one, but I've only just been to 2 of them this year. I've finally gotten back to at least somewhat competing again a little bit, because I've been trying to get some other things done, and just going there to Ardmore and Fort Worth, the only 2 that I've gone to, and they just look so good. They hook up to the steer so well, like after you rope, and that is such a feel and such an art to doing it, and it's extremely fun to watch. And I took mine to Ardmore and completely tanked, and he was not ready. But it was good, because if I didn't get him there, I wouldn't have got him ready anyway. So it kind of made me have to kind of go ahead and take that hit right there and to find out where I was at. And then I was able to go to Trevor's and Miles, and then the next day I was able to go to Joseph's and go rope with them. And it was just kind of cool, because between 3 guys, everyone had a different way they kind of explained everything, because feel it's all on the individual.
Yes, sir.
You know as good as anybody is, how you said that felt to you may be completely gibberish or Chinese to somebody else, and how you explain it, and one of the things, and it's crazy because I was struggling with so many different things, and it's not that I was struggling with it, but like, what's going to score, as I'm scoring right here, like what am I looking for to get to score? And so Miles would explain some stuff in the box where I'm holding my hand to where it might have been maybe popping him a little bit, like hopping the log as he was leaving, as opposed to just one little fraction of a different way with your left hand to get him on the ground. And then, I talk about the corner a little bit, and they were both kind of saying he was a little naive in the corner, be able to, just not hooking up to the steer and stuff. And so I'd really watch when you were roping, because you were doing such a good job. Like that's the one thing they do. They match up and lock onto that steer once they pull. And then I'd be able to talk to Trevor a little bit in the face, and like facing my horse to get him where he wasn't hung up, or how to set it up, and then some stuff like that. Just some different things. And between 3 of them, when Trevor would tell me one thing and Miles would say one thing, I'd marinate it on it. And then when I went to Joseph's, and then we would sit in the box and just talk about it, you could feel all 3 of them just like a puzzle piece come together. Yeah. it was so cool. And like I said, I would have never gotten to do it if I didn't make myself go to those 2 futurities and those couple little things. And then when I was able to go there and watch you, then I was able to see what all 3 of them were talking about. It was just so much fun, as far as trying to be a horseman and trying to get it. Because for me, it's hard because I know I'm making a lot of excuses. But with one horse, you're not getting the reps. That when you guys are doing this for a living, you're getting so many reps and getting so much feel. You guys are getting so much better. And that's what's been so fun. I've been out of this game for 2 years on the futurities, and then to come back and see where you guys are at, it was like, man, everybody's gotten good. Now there's more people doing it that are getting good. But like where you guys were at, you and Trevor and now Joseph, 2 years ago was nothing what you guys look like now. And so it's cool to see how much it's evolved. But it was really fun, and it was fun too. It was like my goal when you were talking about goals. Your goal wasn't money. Your goal was to do a good job and to make a good name for yourself and be respected in your industry. And my goal was to get to Fort Worth, was not to win anything. I was like, if I could just make the short round, like that would be a good stepping stone for me, because I learned so much prior to that. And then I think I was a 230 and a 231, maybe the second one or something like that. And that was my goal, was to get to the upper 220s. Because I don't think I think the first one was 219. Like it was terrible. Like I don't even know if I got to the 220s in Ardmore. Yeah. And to be able to hit that, I was like, yes. Now I lost it on the third one. Steer got a little strong. And my biggest problem was crossing, is the old stick and cross. The rodeo horses, when you would stick, you'd hold them up, because they're heading left. And so you do that on a broke futurity colt, you might run over your heeler.
Yeah, they go right.
Yeah, they'll go right. They'll actually go off that rein. And one, I roped one and he went back to the right and I crossed, and it was just enough to get him hung up. But it was one of those things where it was like, at least I know what it was. But yeah, after that, I was like, man, I feel like now after that, just being able to go to a few different spots, at least feel like now I have a better shot when I get there in October. But it was cool what you said about sometimes it ain't always the money. It's the goal of being able to get better.
That's what a lot of
times that'll take care of the money.
Yeah, it will. A lot of times you just got to go to see where you're at.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell the kids that work for me all the time. Nobody wants to ride. Everybody wants to go out there and just ride good horses, which is fine. But 90% of what goes on out there is off feel. And the more horses you can swing your leg over, the better feel you're going to have. And it doesn't matter if it's a good horse or a bad horse. So, I think the more people can get on, the more horses a person can get on, the better feel you'll have.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun. Joseph, he let me get on Air Force One when I was there at his house, just because we were talking about the feel, and he's like, run one on Air Force One real quick. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I've been wanting on him. Yeah. He just looks cool. He looks smooth. He looks easy, but he runs. Because one of the things for me that I never really learned how to do very well was ride. What Chris Cox would tell me was riding from my horse from the back to the front. I rode mine too far from the front to the back. So then they run low, they're flattened out, they're not able to get up underneath themselves. And when I got on that sucker, you talk about just trying to run under you the whole time, just trying to run under you. And like how much that even just affects your head loop in a good way.
Yes, sir.
Like when they're running under you, they're almost putting the rope on for you just in their stride. And just helps that rope carry, and how easy it is to get ahead of them. And just all those little things. But then when I blocked it on right there, I'm telling you, this sucker's trying to run under. All I had to do was just let him go, and he'd open that sucker up, and just that foot speed.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it was fun. Yeah. It was so much fun. Yeah, I give him crap because every time I'm almost about ready to win something, you rope a leg. And we was able to do a podcast the other day together, and we laughed and was able to cut it up. And because he was always talking about it, he says, well, I heal for most of these guys, and so I also head. He said, so if I feel like I got a chance, shoot, I stab a leg right there on accident. And I was 230 on that first one, and then I think it would have been 231 on the second one, but then he got a leg, and I'm like, so I must be doing better.
Yeah.
So the last place we went, you caught every one of them by 2 feet.
You weren't worried about me.
You weren't worried about me.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I always laugh to him about that. But yeah, that's the one thing, like say, watching you and how well you hook up those horses to that steer, and just the gratitude that, like, I see this on, everybody that I talk to just talks about it, how much of a hard worker you are. you've always had such a great attitude. Even when I remember some of the places that I would go and you're riding horses and you weren't even rodeoing that year, just, on this one and on that one, just always had such a great attitude all day long about it. But other than that, how did you kind of get your start? How did you start riding? What gave you the passion to be the horseman that you are? You fulfilled your dream with the NFR, but like, how did you get to where it takes a long time to develop and get a good, I would say, credentials or a good name for yourself to be able to start getting enough horses? And then not only that, then to be able to get your own place and what some of those stresses are. But how did you kind of get started?
I mean, when we were young, my dad, he didn't really buy any horses. He'd just raise them, and he'd make them for us, and we'd make them as we went. So when we were younger, we just kind of made our horses as we went. So that was always kind of fun to, start them as colts, get them ranched on, and then we'd start roping on them and then eventually haul them. So, I'd say that started at a young age when we were real young. My dad, he taught me a lot when we were little. He taught me a lot of the basics. He might not, I have a lot of respect for how he rides and does stuff. He might not do it the fanciest, but it's very efficient for what he wants that horse to do, whether it's a head horse, heel horse, calf horse, ranch horse. He's very good at getting a horse to do the job he wants it to do and getting the horse to like its job. And once it's trained, it's trained. Like, his horses never blew up or nothing. Once he got them trained, he could put us on them and we could ride them for the next 10 years. So, growing up, I always thought that was pretty cool. And so I'd say that got started. And then, I moved to Texas when I graduated and I started rodeoing. And like guys like you and Chad, I used to think Cody was, which I still do. I loved watching Cody work. Like, I remember going to the U.S.
Cody's
final.
Bay head horse.
Yeah,
or Cody
Chad,
the Bay head horse, Chad rode.
Yeah,
Chad
I
Masters.
remember going to the U.S. finals a couple years out of high school. Steers were big and strong. He'd run up there and drag his ass, handle them. I thought I was fascinated by that stuff. Or so then I started. I couldn't use my rope like a lot of those guys, so I wanted to get horses like that. My dad gave me the basics of how to do it, and then I did just trial and error, figuring out how to get them to do it like that. And then, like I said, I didn't think I roped good enough to make a living rodeoing. So then this deal came along, and then honestly, since I started showing, Brad Lunn's helped me by far the most since I started showing horses, and then as far as getting my own place and stuff, a lot of things fell into place. A lot of luck. Getting the head horse of the year, making the finals, and then we happened to win the biggest futurity there is when we're trying to start our business, and then get some good horses like the gray horse and the yellow horse. And it just kind of snowballed and things just kind of worked out. But I don't know, a lot of luck, really.
Because when you were kind of getting started, you rode at a few people's places and
yeah.
worked.
So I honestly, I caught a lot of breaks along the way. Looking back, I caught a lot of breaks. There's a guy that had a covered arena in Morgan Mill, and he hired me. I worked there for 2.5 years before I rodeoed, and that was a good thing for me. I learned a lot, just trial and error on my own. I was just up there by myself, and I learned a lot. And then I went rodeoing, learned a lot while I was rodeoing, and then after that, honestly, Kyle Kaler, guy that used to own Steve Mill Truck and Trailers, he let me rent his facility up there at top of 108. And shoot, me and my wife lived in our horse trailer and plugged it in, and we rented the stall barn, a plug-in in the barn from the beginning of 2018 until we moved into this house November of 21. So, him letting us rent that, and I had my rodeo horses there, and then I rode horses on the side to pay for my rodeoing, and we just stayed there until we could save up enough to do this, and then bought our own piece of land, and then it just kind of fell into place.
Because for a young kid right now to try to get started on his own, with the price of land and the price of everything to build, you're so far out that it's going to take a while to establish yourself almost at some other people's place, whether it's your parents or whether you're working for someone else and things like that. One of the things that I always admired about you too was every time you left somewhere, everyone always had such good things to say about you. So like for a young kid that's working for someone else or working for, someone else or from someone else's place, what are some great ways to where everyone stays happy while you're there and after you leave?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest deal is you just got to treat it like it's yours. A lot of people I see working for people or underneath people, they're just doing it for a job. Like, I'm very thankful for Kyle and them and his wife letting us rent that facility out there. One of the biggest things we tried to do was treat it like it was ours, from sweeping the concrete to doing anything, So I think that's the biggest deal. And I, don't get me wrong, we've caught a lot of breaks along the way, but I do believe the old sayings and stuff. If you want it bad enough and it's something you truly want, money's not going to stop you from getting it. Whether you need to go work for somebody, whether you need to try it on your own, like if it's truly something you want, I think people sometimes use money as an excuse. I can't get there because I don't have this or that. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong, we caught a lot of breaks. I'm not saying it was, but I think if you work hard enough at something, it'll come. It just, you've got to want it more than you want to fail at it, kind of deal. I think if you want it bad enough, the things will fall into place that need to fall into place to get it done. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. So now that you're on your own, now there's different responsibilities. Now there's different stresses. Now that you're established and have your own place, what's different now than when you were riding at someone else's places? You have steer cost, you have steer hay, you got insurance, you got mortgages and building and things like that. What's the stresses now because I remember when I got my own place, I'm like, oh yeah, well I didn't remember. There's a lot of stress to it, a lot more now. Now you're starting to see why them other guys were a little bit more uptight when you're the places I would stay.
Yeah. It's way more stressful. When I bought my land and we were building on it, I wanted to build it and I wanted to put as many horses on it as I could. Well, I didn't realize that the more horses, the more bills, the more stress. I wear stuff out faster, stuff breaks. So now I'm almost getting to the point where less feels like more. Where in the beginning, I was like, I just want to build an empire. And it's getting to the point now where people always tell me less is more. Well, I didn't really believe that. Now that I've experienced it and all the overhead and the headaches and stuff like that, I think less is definitely more.
Have you found a certain number of horses that you have to have a month to be able to kind of make it work? I remember one time I talked to you, there's a certain number to where, all right, anything more than this is more work than it's worth. And because now you have to have this many more people, now you have to have this much more stuff. Anything less than this, then you're not quite making enough to have the person saddling the horses, unsaddling, washing them off, herding the turds, getting them warm, as you're able to do your job and get on and get off. And not only that, I think a lot of people also don't realize too is what the cattle cost.
Yeah.
What the steers cost now and how many of them suckers you got to run through a year to get them horses trained and how, especially we've had a drought the last 2 years. Now this year's better on hay, but for 2 years we ain't had much steer hay. And so even that's been expensive. So have you kind of gotten numbers now to where you feel like say these young kids right here trying to figure out, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, where you've already kind of walked this path to where there's a little bit of a blueprint to get to where you want to be?
Yeah. I mean, everybody asks all the time, what's the magic number of horses? Well, to me, everybody's number is going to be different. It depends on how your bills are set up, really. It depends on what your mortgage, what payment you have to meet at the end of the month. So far as that perfect number, to me, everybody's number is probably different because it depends on what your bills are. Don't get me wrong. There's kind of a number in there that you hit that every time you get 5 more horses, you got to get another employee, or 7 horses, another employee. So there is a spot in there where you're not really getting anywhere. You're just treading water. But the main thing is just figuring out what your bills are and setting it up to where, your horses are covering your bills and you're making a little on top, and then keep it that way. Don't get too greedy and try to, if 15 horses a month pays all your bills and you break even, Just get 20 horses, make the money on 5. Don't try to get 35 and then get another employee and then another hand. And next thing you know, you're just treading water. Like, I guess my vest, I think you figure out what your bills are. You figure out how many horses it takes to cover those bills. And then when those bills are made or covered, you figure out how much you want to profit every month. And that's the amount of horses you get over your bills. I mean, I guess that's the best way to explain it. But the main thing is put it on paper. It don't sound bad in your head. You think it's fine, put it on paper.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because that would be the one stress that I would have as employees, calling in sick, not working, getting horses turned loose all the time, getting them in binds, and just that headache right there in itself.
You should come over one time and ask my employees how they like working for me. Yeah, it's the problem.
It's not only just the herd and turd. It's not the saddle, and it's not the unsaddle and the washing them off, keeping them safe, keeping them fed, keeping them shod. But then also, can these kids also drive a horse to the vet? Because you have that too. Because if it's taking time out of your day you have to drive horses to the vet, then that's days you're not making money. So, I mean, they have to be well-rounded in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I will say the crew I have working for me right now is great. They are good. They get their fair share of ass chewings. I mean, you can come out here and ask them. They dang sure gotten yelled at. The problem is, if I wasn't so anal about stuff and didn't want my place looking good all the time and didn't want the horses cared for a certain way or handled a certain way, probably be a lot easier on them. I mean, there is times that I think I could be a little easier on them, but the crew I have working for me is good. I will say if I didn't have them, I'd be in a pinch, and it's just as important to the people that work under you. They'll make or break you.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's a hard job to do if it's just a job, because the pay probably ain't great and it's so mundane. It's the same thing every day, and it's long hours. Because the one thing about the Western industry is, you're going to work a lot longer for less. You're going to work a lot harder for less. But it seems like if you can get the kids that are actually craving it and passionate about it to where they're studying every move, oh my gosh, it's the best job in the world. Because if this is what you're wanting to do, getting under somebody that knows what they're doing, that has that knowledge you're trying to find, but to be able to find those kids that can also do stuff, they can work and things like that actually do really, really want it. It's got to be a lot of probably rotation, or like, this ain't for me, or ones that do get good, then they finally get good enough. Okay, now I'm going to go try it on my own.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's hard. I've been very lucky and very thankful. The ones we got, they do good. They've been around for quite a while now. But you also got to be considerate of them too. Like I tell the boys that work for me, anytime there's a rope in a rodeo, don't even ask. If you want to go, you can get off work. I don't care if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it doesn't matter. So I try to be respectful of their time. They'll show up here and we'll put in a pretty full day, but I try not to keep them here at 6 or 7 at night. A lot of people, they come over and they watch us rope where they think we go too fast. I've been told that before, you guys are going too fast over here. Well,
what do you mean by going too fast?
Oh, like it's fast paced. Like I get done with the horse, I step off, I loosen on, we get on another horse and we're going. Like we don't take water breaks. We don't take lunch breaks. We don't work the horses fast. I work the horses the way I think they need worked. But it's pretty, and they don't say it in a bad way, but it's fast paced. But when they show up to my house to work, I don't want to be dragging my feet all day and keeping them longer than they need to be here. Because it's a job to them and they have an outside life as well. So when they show up to work, I want to get all the things done that we need to get done that day.
And if they're getting paid by the hour, you want the most out of your, what I'm saying? You don't want to sit around and not doing nothing, paying by the hour.
I want them to get done as soon as they can so they can leave at the end of the day and have time to go do their stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the main thing is I've had better, when I'm respectful of their time, it seems like I get more out of them. And but they'll put in the extra hours and stuff during the shows and stuff like that. I mean, they've dang sure put in some 14-hour days and stuff. They're not
those shows, that's it's all there.
Yeah.
What is the going rate now for riding a head horse? I'm so out of the loop. I don't even know what is kind of the going rate where most guys charge a month to ride a head horse, and what's usually kind of the criteria for how long they have to stay.
As far as long as they got to stay, to me, I ask the customers where they want the horse to be when they get them back. And then, after I ride them a little bit, I kind of give them an idea where I think how long it'll how long it'll take the horse to get to that point. And then honestly, it's up to them how long they want to leave it. I'm not going to tell them, hey, he's got to be here 6 months, got to be here 90 days. It's their money they're spending. So I'm going to leave it up to them how long they want to leave the horse, whether it's 3 days or 30 days or 3 years. That's kind of up to them. But I mean, I don't love the 30 days because in my mind, the first 30 days, you're not really, you get more bang for your buck at the second, third, and fourth month than you do the first month. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a jackpot horse or what it is. The first month, I'm trying to figure the horse out. The horse is trying to figure me out. I'm trying to figure out what it needs, what it doesn't need. And then once I do, usually that first month's over. And then you actually start to see progress the next few months. So it's up to the customer, really.
How long do you think it takes, like a horse, say when you get one that's pretty green, how long do you think it takes a lot of times for a horse to be able to feel like that the horse knows his job, that he can go out there and go back to the owner? A lot of times, what do you feel like that time zone is? Kind of change from each horse to the next?
Yeah, it really depends on the horse's age. I will say, I mean, I tell people all the time, my favorite horse to get in training is that 6 to 8 year old horse that's been ranched on since it was 3. And the guy's like, hey, I want a World Series horse. In about 6 months, I mean, they're usually pretty dang good, and they can go. Those are my funnest horses. In about a week, you're turning steers on it already.
Yeah.
Those still to this day. I mean, I love the show horses, don't get me wrong, but that 7-year-old horse that's never been in the arena and been rode since it was 3 outside, they make head horses so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, within 6 months, those guys can haul them somewhere. But then there's some you get that are 4 that have never been out of an arena. They might take 2 years.
Yeah.
But it just kind of depends on all the age of the horse. And
do you feel like between the rope horses or when they've come out of other disciplines like the cutting or the cow horse, that's kind of like pretty easy? They're not easy, but I mean, they get it faster because they've already been used and they're broke, correct?
Nice. It's nice. Those horses that have been in the cutting or the cow horse or honestly anything on a cow. Like if somebody else put them on a cow and did what they do with them, they take to it so much faster. It does. A lot of time with these futurity horses and these younger horses, those ones that are real broke, you'll get them going and you're almost kind of waiting on their age to catch up with where they're at in their training. They need to get a little older before I can push them a little harder and stuff like that. So that age has a big difference, a big deal with it.
That's one thing I have found, no more than I've been able to kind of ride them a little bit, is, when I get the 5 to 6, mainly the 6 is when I can feel where I'm a little bit more comfortable because I can feel where they're at mentally.
Yeah.
Where them 3 and 4 year olds, they're just such babies and just a maturity level and where they're at. It's a lot of patience, but then also a lot of feel and timing to know what's acceptable and what you're just kind of letting them figure out. I've noticed that too.
Yeah, but
what's kind of your training program? What is there? Certain days of the week that some of them need. Some of them need 5 days a week. Some of them are a little bit more mature where they just need to stay in and kind of and be maintained. What's your routine throughout the day?
Oh, it just kind of depends on the horse once again. But I mean, there's some horses I'll ride Monday through Friday. There's some of them that get worked 4 days a week. There's some that get worked 3 days a week. Everything gets worked at least 3 to 4 days a week, if not 5, whatever they need. But it just kind of depends on the horse. It does, yeah. I mean, like we got some 3-year-olds that we've started roping on about 60 or 90 days ago, and it consists of, I'll probably break away on them twice a week, and I'll turn steers twice a week on them. A lot of slow steers, they'll get about 8 to 10, but nothing faster than a slow lope, and then like my showers, like we're getting ready to go to Utah, like they're getting rode quite a bit right now, 5 days a week. They're getting it quite a bit. I'll have kind of like, we got some fresh steers right now, and I got some, I call them jackpot horses for the public that we've roped on for 6 or 7 months now. They're about ready to start going. So, I'm dang sure making runs on them, 10 or 12 runs, 4 or 5 days a week on some faster steers. So, it just kind of depends on what the horse needs and what we got around for cattle and stuff like that.
That seems to be one of the biggest questions I hear a lot of at a lot of the clinics is to get that horse to where he's peaked out at the right time, where he's not overdone and almost fried trying to get him ready in the practice pen, or not being so passive that they're not ready to go when they get there because it's gone too slow? What's kind of some of the things you try to do to where they're peaked out to where when they get there they're ready to go?
Yeah, I try to I don't get set in a certain way that I'm going to do them all. I try to figure out what the horse needs. Like, as I'm training these young horses and stuff before we go to shows and stuff, I'm playing with them far as I'm going to ride him this way today, this way tomorrow, and see how he is on the third day. And if he feels terrible, well, I know I'm not going to prepare him the way I did those 2 days before, and then I'll play with him again. And you just kind of let the horse tell you, hey, if you'll work me this way, and then when you go make a run on me, I'll work like this, then hey, I need to prepare him like this.
Kind of finding a recipe.
Yeah, you are. And everyone's different, but you just
and every one of them is different.
Yeah. So you kind of got to pay attention to them a little bit and listen.
Trying to remember.
Don't get stuck in every horse here is going to get break weight on Monday and Tuesday and turn steers on Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday they're going to be great, because it ain't going to work like that. So it's almost figuring out what the horse will excel the best at if you do what on the days before, I guess I'd say.
Because that's what I hear so many guys talk about is, they run slow steers and do the training all the time. Well, then like the next question is like, well, then how do you get them ready for the runners? Because you got to at least expose that a little bit at home. And so you're trying to balance that out, but, to see where they're at that level. But then if you stay at that level, then they get, usually the scoring, it seems like, is the first thing that goes once you run too many of them that run.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets tough. Yeah.
So you just try to balance having enough of those fresh ones in there to see where they're at, and then see if they're good where they're at. But then if they need to back down, is that how you kind of maintain it?
Yeah, I mean I'm not. Once they get to a certain point where I feel like they can take some heat and take some runners and stuff, I'll ask them to see where they're at. And honestly, if they feel pretty good and they take it pretty good, I'll back down and keep doing what I'm doing, because I know what I'm doing is working, because I call on them for a day and they work. And so I'm going to back down and do what I'm doing. If I call on them and they don't work how I want them to work, then I'm going to change how I'm working them every day and during the week. And then, I'll change it and work them a certain way for 4 or 5 days, and then I'll call on them again. And if they work how I want, then I know, hey, this horse needs worked like this to be able to perform like this on the weekend at the roping or the shows. So yeah, I'll play with it all the time just to kind of see where they're at. But if I call on them and they do it how I want and it feels good, I'm not going to go out there and call on them every day. I'm not going to ask them every day to do it at their top level. They can do it. If I know they can do it, I'm almost going to let them keep that in their bag and back down and just keep them together.
That's one of the things that I've struggled with, was once they got good, and then sometimes I would back them back down and slow it back down. Well, then I had to be careful of going back too slow, or then I'm almost dulling them.
Yeah.
Then their feet ain't moving good enough, and they're not showing good enough.
Yeah.
I've struggled with that balance myself as well.
Yeah, it's hard, because every one of them's. Some of them I got to turn up for the shows, and some of them I got to turn down.
Yeah,
they're all different.
Yeah. So how do you decide? Because when you go to, say, the American Rope Horse Futurity, you're only able to take 5 horses. Is that correct? So when you have a row of horses to take, what's the decisions? How do you decide what horses are going to go?
Well, I try to take the best 5 I got in the barn. Or every scenario is a little bit different. I personally, at the American Rope Horse Futurity in Fort Worth, I think the 4-year-old deal up there is great and it pays great. I personally don't love showing 4-year-olds up there, because it's a really hard setup, and I think it's really hard on them. So if I would rather take 5 and 6-year-olds, unless I have an exceptional 4-year-old or something like that, I'll take them. But so I try to stick with the 5 and 6-year-old horses to go up there, and I try to take the best 5 I got. But honestly, it's getting to where, in the beginning when I started showing, I'd show anything. If they want it shown, I'd show it. Or now it's like, if I take it to 2 or 3 shows and I don't think it has what it takes, if the customer ain't just dying for it to go, I don't really care to take it. And I don't want that to sound arrogant or nothing like that, but to me, it does no good to show a horse you can't win on.
So so it sounds like you have good enough clients then to where, if someone has dreams and hopes of this horse being a futurity horse, but you're like, man, it's going to be more apt to be down this avenue where people are okay with it. But then you have good enough clients, it sounds like, then to where hey, I think this sucker's got some ability here to where then you guys are kind of able to work at how to strategize what horses you're taking as a team, then it sounds like.
Yeah. Everybody just got to be on the same page.
That's good.
Just communication with them, with your customers and stuff. And yeah, I've been very fortunate to have some really good customers. And they understand if I tell them I don't think the horse is going to be able to win, then we go a different route with it. Sometimes people want them shown whether they can win or not, just to see them go, which that's fine too. I'm not against that either. That's no big deal. But it's hard because it's such a high level. That's what a lot of people are talking about. They want the numbers to keep raising in the futurity entries, and I get it. I do too. But no, everybody's so competitive. You want to enter a horse you think you can win on. So there's, Cade Rice, me, the Bermuda, Richards, Andy, all of us, Dakota, Joseph. It's not like that. It's not like January 1st of next year, we all got 20 horses that are talented enough showing up to our house to go enter at these deals. So, I think the production of, or whatever you want to call it, that I don't think right now it's getting better. There's going to be a lot more better horses in the world, in the industry, to where that'll help the numbers go up. But it's hard to get the numbers to go up because a lot of us don't want to just go enter a dud just to enter, you know. So I think as the way they're raising horses nowadays and better horses, I think that'll help the numbers in the industry go up when better horses keep coming along. Because the level nowadays, it's just because you have a horse that can't win at the charity doesn't mean it's not a good horse. Like it's such a small percentage that can actually win at it that are good enough, but the other percentage doesn't mean they're bad horses.
Well, a lot of times it seems like the ones that don't make it, a lot of times are what most of the public needs.
Yes, sir. Yep.
You don't need all those buttons. You don't need them moving their feet that fast and doing all those things right there at a high level. So sometimes a little bit duller horse or just not near as feely or touchy that has a little bit more rate to him that kind of does his job but ain't flashy about it. To me, that's your public horse anyway.
Yes, sir. Yep, exactly. So it doesn't mean that somebody has a bad horse just because it can't win at the shows. There is a lot of good horses out there that don't win at the shows, but are still good horses. They're really good horses, but that select few that can win, it's just such a small percentage. And, it's just like it's hard to find good horses, and that's what makes it hard.
Now, feel free whether you want to talk about this or not. You don't have to talk about what your rate is or what, anything like that, but like what is, if you're free enough to talk about it, what do you think most people do on the breakdown, like at the futurities on the winnings? Like I've heard some people do like a third for the rider, a third for the owner, a third for the helper. Is it all kind of like is it all different? Is every one of them do different? I've even heard of some people to where I think the people that own the horses, they also just pay the helper a certain set rate, whether you win or lose. Is it all kind of fluctuate?
Yeah, I think everybody's business is a little bit different. Everybody's kind of different. Some people are 70 to the owner, 30 to the rider. Some are 30 to the rider, or 33% to the rider, 33 to the helper, 33 to the owner. Some do flat rates. Everybody's got their own set deal. Like, I got it on an email. I got a price list, and it's all broke down on there, all the costs. I email it to all my customers. It says what everything is and how it's broke down. But yeah, everybody's deal's a little different. But everybody tries to make it the best they can for the customers. They're the ones buying the horses, paying the bills, and doing it. So,
well, and it's also giving people right there that can rope another alternative. Like your helpers, because you help a lot. Because you never miss. So you've got enough horses too where you're able to take. Because it is hard for the healers to be able to get guys that can head good enough where they can show their horses. So that's a strength that a header's got to be able to have to help those healers. And so you've also got horses too where you're able to do that as well, right?
Yeah, I love helping. It's besides the futurities, I don't go anywhere. So that it's a good spot for me to go compete. And I love helping. I could do it every day. It's fun. I enjoy it. I like watching those healers win, whether I'm helping them or somebody else. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's a fun day to watch, and I'm thankful enough there's a bunch of jackpot horses around here. I'll take them and season them a little bit for people and help on them. And
because it seasons them where it keeps them scoring, but it gets them running all the way up in there, and they still got to do their job right.
Yep.
But they're not getting the stress of an open roping.
Yep.
Where they're getting toast.
Yep. Yeah, the barrier's just short enough that you're not smoking them, and you don't have to be 6 flat halfway down the arena. And it's they're fun. I like doing the helping.
One of the things that I've noticed too is one of the Ironman helpers on both ends is old Brock Hansen.
Yeah,
it's been awesome for him because that dude can just rope and rope. He's never either side never misses.
Yep.
That shot he pulled off for you over there the other day in the short round, gosh dang it, that was a man eater of a shot.
Yeah. He's
because Fort Worth was tough. I give Joe heck about roping a leg because it's fun and it's natural for me to do. But I mean, some of them had been roped enough. There were some of them that fight their head and they were pretty hard. And that short round steer that you guys had was wanting to fight his whole head around there, and he clicked them suckers hocks together and bagged him.
Yeah, he healed him real good. Yeah, me and him actually talked about it earlier in the week. That most of the time an M-branded steer don't lie to you through the turn. Once they start, that's where they're headed. And not talking about the steers, nothing like that, but those steers, they would lie to you.
Heifers sometimes can get real tricky real fast. They don't always. Yeah, they'll lie to you.
Yeah, they would start one way and then they would change.
Yeah.
And man,
they might change the next time you rope them. They might not even be that same way the next time. It was that way.
He did a phenomenal job. Yeah, he is. Him and Colby Lovell, I would say, are by far the best switch end header healer helpers I think there is. I mean, Brock, he's done a great job for me. I use him and I use Shay. Shay's done a phenomenal job for me this year. They both have. I mean, it's the most unthankful job there is helping at those deals, and they've done an unreal job for me. But it's good that they have these futurities for a guy like Brock, for instance. Like, might be one of the better switch end ropers ever. Head, heel,
I agree.
He's made the finals heading. I bet if he wanted to, he could make the finals heeling, So it's good that they're having these for an avenue. He perfected that talent his whole life to get to where he's great at both ends like that. It's nice that there's some way that he can use that to provide for his family.
I agree.
It's like he's set up a little business doing it, and he's doing great. And
that's what's been good about these futurities is it gives a guy a little more longevity with that rope in your hand if you can ride them.
I mean, he spent probably from the time he was 8 years old until 30 perfecting both ends, and it's nice that he has something to make money with for what he works forever to do and stay home. So it's a good deal.
Did you see him ride that buckskin horse there at Fort Worth? The first one he roped, that was a sweet horse. It was a buckskin. I don't know who owned it.
Was he showing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Dakota's mare. It's a 6-year-old mare.
She's sweet. She looked really good. She looked really, really good.
That's the one.
Just broke the barrier. I think the first one maybe let up a little bit and he broke the barrier. He's seen the start. Either that or the mare outrun the start.
Yeah, she can run.
Or the steer hung up. I couldn't remember which one, but he's seen it and just blew him up. But when he threw that freaking head loop, did you hear it?
Yeah,
that sucker echoed off that horn wrap through that steer's skull out his nostrils. I mean, just pow! I mean, just put some freaking.
Yeah.
It echoed through that arena. God, I forgot how much that dude could throw a freaking head loop.
Yeah, it'd be crazy if he used the classic. Yeah, it'd be. They'd probably banned him from roping steers.
He's always had that ability, man, to crack that whip on them horns.
What's crazy is I haven't seen him reach at a steer and I don't know how long. And then they had the Paint World show, I think, up there the same day as the 4-year-old. And we got there a little early and they were doing the time deal. And John Ryan asked him to head for him. And he sees like full shoulder, steer's running off to the right. He hits the barrier and just out of nowhere, 3.5 coils off the right, smokes it off the door. And I ain't seen him throw a coil all year helping, and I know he hasn't practiced that shot at home. And just he's has that in his bag from rodeoing, and then just out of nowhere, just does it. It's like
you said, he's perfected that since he was 8.
Yeah, he's still got it.
What's crazy too is you talk about the help and stuff like that, and Driggers was saying the other day that he had to get away from helping because of how much it hurts his rodeoing. And when he went to breaking it down, I was like, I do remember that. It's a different swing, it's a different riding style. I just kept doing it because I kept liking the fact it was freeing my horses up where I get longer. I can get more use out of my horses because it would free them up and then they would be ready to go by the time they got there. But yeah, he is right on the fact that how hard that balance is between throwing one for 3 coils and running all the way up in there.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I like talking about on these podcasts a lot is for a lot of the listeners, because what you guys are doing at these futurities is the same place that basically a 13 roper down would. You're roping from the same spot.
Yeah.
You guys are using these horses to set up runs, not your rope. And so one of the things that I really wanted to pick your mind about today too was, because like I say, you never miss. You have a real sharp head loop. You've always kind of used the same rope. What ropes do you use?
I've always just used the heat.
Every time I think I've ever seen you, you've always had a heat in your hand.
Yeah, I don't know. I started using those classics, I bet in 2014.
What is it about the heat?
I like that they're fast. You know, you can get,
because you have a fast swing.
Yeah. I like that I can get them buzzing around there, and they close down fast. I like that they're fast, but I've used the heat. When I was rodeoing, I used the heat soft, a little bit stiffer rope, and then when I'm showing, I just use an extra soft, and for 10 years, that's all I've used, those red ones.
What distinguishes what lay you use between a soft and an extra soft?
Oh, when I was rodeoing, if reaching a little bit, the stiffer rope would stay open. You know, my tip wouldn't get stuck behind me. If I'm going all the way to the steer and roping right to left, and I want a little bit softer rope, and I think I ride my horse better with the softer rope. I know that sounds weird, but I feel like I can run my rope and ride my horse better with the softer rope.
What is it about? Do you change at all when you go to futurity and say they got big horns compared to like when they get there and the horns barely stick out past the horn wrap? Do you still feel the extra soft? Because I know a lot of times an extra soft, the more you use it, the more the body will break down, so it softens up after a while. Yes, sir. But is there a lay that you use when they're bigger or when they're smaller, or when you're running up there, it doesn't really feel like it matters to you much?
I mainly just stick with them extra softs, just because I feel like I can ride my horse better with a softer rope. That's one thing about the futurities. It's not like an open rope in a rodeo. Like, you know, I know I'm going all the way to the steer at the futurities. I know if I don't go all the way to the steer, I'm going to get penalized. So I'm going to go all the way to the steer. Sometimes I will say helping. If the steers are big or horns and stuff, I might get a soft, because helping every now and then, you can help your guy out and go coil back.
Yep.
So sometimes I will get a soft out to help with. But if I'm showing, it's usually an extra soft, because I know I'm going all the way to the steer, maybe a half a swing over the horns and setting it up.
So
if my tip's behind me, I got time to let it catch up. I just feel like I ride better and run my rope better with an extra soft.
One of the things too is like when you're helping, it's I don't feel the stress as much when I'm showing my horse as when I'm helping, because like when I'm showing my horse, I'm almost not even thinking about the rope. You know, I've roped so much. We both rope so much. You do it every single day with what you're doing. You know that you can trust your right hand. You know, when you get to that spot, that right hand knows what to do. But it seems like when you're helping, there is a little bit more pressure, because you might have to reach, or you might have to adjust a little bit as you're trying to help your healer score. What are some of the things, like when you're in that high-pressured situation, what do you feel like you're focused on when you're competing, when you're trying to make that 7, 8 second or 6 second run if the steers allows it?
Yeah, I mean, helping's probably the most stressful thing a guy can do, really. It's pretty stressful, but it all depends on who you're helping. Like, there's some people I help that they know their horse has a chance to win. I know their horse has a chance to win, and if we draw a steer that we can kind of make a faster run on, and I've talked to them enough about it, they're good with me going at him a little bit. And then I've got some people I help that might be in the intermediate or limited that, hey, we knock 4 down, I know we're getting paid, or 3 down, I know we're getting paid. Perfect. I know I'm getting all the way to them, helping them set up. And then there's some of those horses that, hey, we got a chance to place in the open. If we get the right steer, let's just go ahead and go at him just a little bit. And it's not rodeo going at him by no means. Just, you know, be 6 instead of 7 or 8. So it just kind of depends on who you're helping. Like I said, communicating with them, make sure everybody's kind of on the same game plan.
So you're able to basically adjust and kind of like running a certain play playing football. Yeah. So, okay, this is where I'm going to see my start and run all the way up in here. You're not focused on anything else. Because everything you just said right there, it's not like I'm not focusing on not breaking out. I'm not focusing on splitting the horns. Everything you said was, this is the kind of run I'm going to make. Yeah. So this is what you almost seems like you focused on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, what we're trying to accomplish, more or less. You know,
because there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard a lot of guys say, well, you know, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to back off barrier, make sure I don't break out. You know, then they start talking about what they don't want to do. Yeah. And then it's like, well, you know, I see why the pressure's mounting up, because you're telling yourself what not to do. Or everything you've said is like, well, then I'm just going to run all the way up in there and make sure I set them up. Well, I can go out this one a little bit better. It's like a play.
Yeah, because I mean, you can say what you want to do, but it'll all change when you nod your head sometimes by what the steer does. I mean, there's
a lot to that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Until you get hit in the mouth. Yeah. The main thing I worry about helping is make sure when I nod to watch the steer and don't be late, but don't break the barrier. Like, just start with getting a good,
Be conservative.
be a good, safe start, and then just react after that. Like, especially if I know it's somebody that, hey, I plan on, they rope good and their horse shows good. If I get all the way to him and downstream him, I know, hey, make sure I get the start I need. And then
What do you mean by downstream?
Oh, just kind of pick the steers up and roll them a little bit, go out the front more. Like, there's some of those guys that, they'd rather, they like that and their horses show better. And then there's some of them, they want them to open up and come back up the arena a little bit more. So that's, like when I help Clay Logan, I like helping Clay. He likes them brought back a little bit more. And so I know I'm going to run just a little bit more narrow. And when I pick them up, I'm going to slow them down for a second, come back and open them up. That's,
Where it almost kind of brings the steer right to him.
Yeah, right to him. That's how he likes to heel. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what he prefers. He asked me to help. I want to do the best I can to, make him how he wants them. And then
sometimes the rolling lets them kind of like come in and then almost get a little more slide too, and a little more momentum.
They never have to pick their horse up.
Yeah.
They just put that hand down and roll around. John Ryan, he kind of likes them rolled a little bit. So I'll almost ride sometimes the horse that I think fits the guy that's healing.
That makes
more
sense
or less,
too.
Like I got a mare that she likes to go out the front. So like when I ride with John Ryan and stuff, I ride her a lot, or that Daniel Reed. They kind of like me going out the front. Well, that mare goes out the front, so it's easy to ride her for them, So I kind of match the horse to how they want the steer. You'll see helpers switching horses all the time, and I think a lot of people do that. Brock does. So when helpers are down there switching horses, it's not because they're getting on a worse horse for somebody or something like that. It's they're trying to match up the best they can.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought about that too, because I was helping there for a little while when I retired, and I had a couple different horses. One was a little flat where I could reach. I could almost get them before they got away and almost help them bring them back right there to them where it showed pretty good. And then some of them, like that Cotton horse, he's got a little more speed, a little more foot speed, where you can almost run one in the middle of the arena and just like post them up and just, right there to where there was a different show.
Yes, sir.
And I was seeing what you were saying by that was because that would fit a different type of horse for sure.
Yeah.
Well, some of the questions that I had on here, so I put a post out on Facebook yesterday, and I had one guy, he put enough post out there, so I just went ahead and picked his, but it was Sean Merringer. And this is a very common question that I get a lot at the clinics too, and I'd love to get your perspective of this, but he was saying, how do you approach training a 10-year-old horse that's strong, charging, nervous, and how do you get that horse to fit a lower numbered roper? Because I feel a lot of guys sometimes buy what they want instead of buying what they need.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of guys where sometimes they'll almost buy these futurity horses that have all those buttons, but they can't really ride them.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of that, but then there is also too where sometimes a guy might get a little bit greener horse, and then that greener horse feels that rider's insecurities, and so they're both nervous. So I know it's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot to it, but I do get that question a lot. I'm curious what your perspective of that question is.
Yeah, I mean, at that horse's age, with it being 10 years old, if it's strong and not wanting to rate and be a little climby and stuff with you, I mean, I would give it the benefit of the doubt. I'd back it down, maybe rope the dummy a little bit. I'd break away on it, steer stop, and work on it rating for about a month or so. And if you look up in a month and it hadn't got much better, it's probably not ever going to get better. That's probably how it's going to be. But I would almost give the horse the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to break away, steer stop, I'm going to rope the dummy, run up there and just rope for the horse for about 2 or 3 weeks and give it every opportunity to learn what you're trying to teach it. And if it does and it's getting better, keep building on that until it does back down to where you want. And if you feel like you roped every day for your horse for about 3 to 4 weeks and it hadn't gotten any better, I mean, I hate to say, but it's probably not going to get any better. That's just how it's going to be. You might want to do something different with it. But, I would start with roping for the horse every day for about 3 or 4 weeks, breakaway and steer stopping, roping the smarty, something like that.
What is kind of your recommendation that you feel like for most number 4s, some number 3, some 4.5s, but like for most of your 3s and 4s, like what do you feel like they should be looking for?
Like horse-wise?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, horses that good minds, like they need a horse that's on their team. whether it's a slow steer, fast steer, medium steer, even if that horse ain't the most talented horse in the world, a horse that's on their team. And what I mean by that, like, you know, when they ride it in the box, it wants to set itself in there. Steer runs, it'll run up there. Steer slow, it'll rate. They need to find a horse that is good-minded and wants to work. You know, there's difference in horses that don't want to work, that people make them work, and they look good, but a lot of people can't see that person's making them work. And then you have horses that are doing it all on their own, but might not be as fancy and flashy, and they don't even get looked at because they don't catch your eye. But that horse is doing everything for that guy out there. Those are the horses that I think the lower end public need, is that horse that is wanting to work and wanting to get along and willing to adapt to the roper type.
I totally
horse.
agree.
Don't get caught up in the fancy horse. Don't get caught up in the fancy horse. Like, I mean, like, it goes back to, you know, some of my favorite horses to get are those 7 and 8 year old ranch horses.
Yeah.
And you go to roping on those things, and it seems like if it's a good-minded horse, which I think the reason I like those so much and so many of those it's because those guys that ranched on them, by the time they were 4, they knew whether they were a good horse or not. And if they weren't, they would have sold it and got them another prospect. If they ranched on them for 4 years, they knew it was a good horse, or they weren't going to waste 4 years of their time on it. So then when you take it into roping, that good-minded horse they had in the pasture that they could count on, that wouldn't screw them or hurt them, or it's the same thing roping. It ends up good in the box, running to them, rating, turning. It ends up doing all that good too. So it's, yeah.
That makes sense. Because a lot of times, if that horse is just a little bit chargy, you know, scores good and does a job good, you know, that might be your upper level horse.
Yeah.
You know, that might be the guys that can get ahead of those. And, you know, for a lot of guys that are, you know, just getting started, to be able to get ahead of a horse that fast and going that fast, it makes it harder. And then you almost stand on defense so much.
Yep.
So that little slower horse that is takes a little bit more time, where it's a lot easier to get in front of, and you're not roping hard running steers. I totally agree with that. So getting ready for the big one in Walsburg, Utah. You guys are leaving next week, headed out there for that one.
Yeah, we'll leave Monday morning.
405,000, I believe that thing adds. I think Quana and Richards and maybe a few others. I know there's some other sponsors involved.
Yeah, it's going to be a good deal.
Supposed to pay $100,000 to win the heading and the heeling.
Yeah, 5 and 6 year olds $100,000. 4 year old is $50,000 each way. So yeah, I was talking to Ren's dad. Called me today, and he told me to write down what I thought about horses for the judging and stuff like this. And I thought in my mind, I didn't tell him this, but I thought, honestly, you could have a barrel roping on donkeys with barrel racers judging it, and we're still going to love it, because it's going to pay $100,000. I mean, it's yet to have a futurity pay $100,000. There's not very many ropings that pay $100,000 a year, let alone rodeos that pay $100,000. Like, I'm just thinking in my mind, you know, I appreciate that they're trying so hard, which they are, to accommodate. They said their goal is they want people to leave just as happy as they were to come to it, you know. And I love how much they're putting into it, trying to make it work. But I'm thinking in my mind, I was sitting in the box today when he asked me that, and I'm like, we could be roping in the rain for all I care. Like, 100,000. If somebody complains when they leave there, you don't want them to come back anyway. I mean, if they're going to put that much money up for us, they can run it however they want to run it. Like I said, we could have a barrel roping, and I wouldn't care.
Now, Jay, with the American Rope Horse Futurity, he's going to help put it on, so it's going to be his judging system, correct?
Yes.
So how many judges?
I heard there's 4 judges. I heard they're going to run it like Fort Worth. 2 judges, 1 round. So, the 2 judges that judge in the first round will judge in the third. The 2 judges that judge in the second round will judge in the short round.
Got it.
They'll do it like that. So, I mean, they're doing it all right. I mean, they got
it's
4
going to be
judges.
awesome.
Yeah,
because I've heard no stock charge, no other. I've heard it's like 100% payback, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, so the guaranteed money.
That's wild.
Yeah, so the guaranteed money, or all the added money, that goes all to all your first place pots. Your intermediate, your limited, goes to all your first place pots, and then the entry fees are $2,000 to enter, 100% payback, and that starts, you're roping for that money from second down.
That's amazing.
So even if
second's going to be as good as any futurity throughout the year.
Yeah, it will. And
this is almost like a finals in a way, isn't it?
It really is, and $2,000, 100% payback. Even if second pays 50,000 less than first, it's not. I mean, it's still
It's
good.
still 50,000.
It's still great. So I'm thankful they're doing it. It's
going to be great for the trainers, the owners, the horses, and the helpers.
Yeah, good for the industry.
Helpers are going to be making some money
they'll be
too.
making some good money.
Now, what all horses are you taking out there, and then who all are you helping out there?
So I'm going to take. I'll take the gray horse I've been showing. The yellow
Smoke.
Yeah, Smoke. The yellow 5-year-old.
What's his name?
Superman. Yeah, I'll take those two, and then I got a Betty's a cat. Goose. I'll take him, and then I'm not going to take my wife's horse. I got a stud horse that I'm going to take out there. He's a 6-year-old, once in a blue boon. And then in the 4-year-olds, I got the horse of my wife's that I won the 4-year-old deal on in Fort Worth. And then the yellow I won third on. I'll take those two. The hashtags that I'll take him. And then I got a 4-year-old mare that I'm going to take out there. So I'll take those 8. And then I got a handful of people I'm helping. John Ryan, Daniel Reed, Luke Atkinson, like Rhett Nelson. There's a handful of people I'll be helping out there. Not as much as I normally do, but there's.
So you're going to have to take a couple rigs out there.
Yeah, I'm going to take one rig, and then like John Ryan's taking a help horse for me. Daniel's taking a help horse for me. I didn't want to take 2 rigs. The people that I was helping, I was like, man, if you can get my horses out there, I'm damn sure.
And then any of the open guys that you're helping out there?
No, Daniel Reed has one for the open. But no, that's a lot of the people I help are just kind of in the limited and intermediate. Those are just kind of the mainly one. There's a few open people from time to time, like Daniel Reed or Steve Orth or stuff like that from time to time. But I leave that up to Brock. He can help those ones. He can help those guys.
Yeah, he does work at them. That's for sure.
Yeah, he does.
I think one of the things too is like Dakota. I've always been good buds with him. I remember taking him. I think I might have took him to his first pro rodeo. I think Cardoza couldn't go up there to. I forget where. I think maybe it was Kansas City, and threw him in the rig up there, and he healed for me. And he was just always so dang heely back there, and always had a pretty nice horses. And it's really been a strength for him, and since he's quit rodeoing, he does really good on them, both ends, heading and healing.
Yeah, he's had a lot of success at it, and helps good. I mean, the Richards, they use him to heal for all their horses. I mean,
Now, how are you two related? You're both up there in Colorado.
Yes, our dads are brothers. We're cousins.
Cousins?
Yeah, about a year and a half apart.
Got it.
So he's done dang sure well at those things for sure.
It's been fun to watch. Yeah, I'll see him out there every once in a while. I'll usually get out there really early because usually my horses ain't been very many places. And usually he's always the next guy in there with all his horses and his dogs out there getting them all ready. And it's always fun to catch up with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I wish you nothing but the best of luck out there. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited about that one. And I'm sure I want to be able to watch that one on the American Rope Horse Futurity app.
Yeah, it'll be on that CHC, I think, or whatever that app is. It'll be on there. Yeah, they'll have that thing televised for sure.
I was actually, last weekend, they showed me that app. What is it called?
It's either
I think it's CHC Live.
Yes, correct. Yep. Yeah.
So C is in Charlie, H is in horse, Charlie. Again, so CHC Live. Yeah, that app. Then you can watch it and keep track of everything right there, huh?
Yeah. No, it'll be a pretty good deal. Everybody I've talked to is excited. We're dang sure excited to go. It's everybody's pretty excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be, like I say, that's going to be a big hit for the industry on where this is going to go. Well, man, how do we follow you? I know a lot of this stuff. If the guys want to get a good head horse trained, what's all the ways we can get a hold of you?
I mean,
is everything on Facebook?
Yeah, either Instagram or Facebook, social media. Tate Kirchenschlager Performance Horses. My phone number's on there. You can either send a message on Facebook or just get my phone number off there and call or text me or ask around. Somebody's probably got my phone number somewhere.
You guys got some studs you guys got going on yet that you're promoting, or you doing any of that yet?
Yeah, we got a couple studs around here. We need to see how good they are first. Yeah, but we got a couple studs.
Still waiting to kind of see where they're going.
Yeah, there's a once in a blue boon stud over here that's pretty dang good, and then we got a Steve.
Now, does Joseph have a once in a blue moon stud too? I've heard that. I've heard someone saying that they had one just about like that the other day too.
No, he's got a one-time pep. That stud he shows a one-time Pepto stud.
Okay,
that heel horse. Yeah.
And then what's Dark Side? Can't remember what he was.
Once in a blue boon.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's a simulator. Those are two simulators.
Yep.
So that breeding has been getting tested pretty good right now on the head side.
Yeah. It's been
Seems like it's taken pretty good.
Yeah, all those horses are big. They're all big. Some of them could be just a little more talented than others, but for the most part, you can count on them being good horses. If they're not talented enough, they're still good horses. And then, there's been quite a few horses out of Play Gun mares that have been pretty good, and or Freckles Playboy mares that have been good. So that's like we got a Stevie, a son of Stevie Ray Vaughan out of a Play Gun mare down here. It wants to be pretty good. So
what's the size? How big is that?
He's 3. He's probably 15 hands already. Yeah, so
that's a good size.
Yeah,
I like that size.
Yeah, it's a real good size. Yeah,
it seems to me, in my opinion, about 14.3 is your line. I don't want to go much smaller than 14.3, and honestly, much more than 15.3. I don't really much more bigger than that. So I like the 15 hands. It's a good all around horse.
I think 14.3 to 15.1. That's where I like to be. I get along better with the shorter stride horses,
especially that fast swing of yours.
Yeah, keeps its feet on its ground. Those bigger, longer strided horses, I have a hard time timing up with them. Those ones that'll stay on the ground, keep their feet on the ground. It's keep their feet low but run uphill. Those are the ones I like.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Well, man, do good out there. I'm rooting for you, and thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I'm proud of everything you've done, and you've built a heck of a career. You got a great place, and man, you're making a hell of a name for yourself as a head horse trainer. So I'm proud of you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You got to do good over there.